Captain Tom Miller stood tall, adjusting his freshly pressed uniform as he and his crew waited in the massive docking bay of Starbase Alpha. This was a historic moment. The first time humans would receive an official ship from the Galactic Council since Earth joined the interstellar community just 3 years ago. "Do you think it will have quantum drives?" asked Jack, the young navigation officer who couldn't stop bouncing on his heels. "I heard it might be a Trellix-class cruiser," said Maria, the weapons specialist. "Those things can outrun light itself." Tom smiled at his crew's excitement. They had all been handpicked, the best Earth had to offer. After years of proving themselves in smaller roles aboard alien vessels, they would finally have their own command. "Whatever it is," Tom said, "we'll make humanity proud." The massive doors at the far end of the hangar slid open with a deep mechanical groan. A delegation of aliens entered, led by Ambassador Brix of the Lyrian species. Brix was tall and thin with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the hangar lights. Like all Lyrians, he had 3 pairs of eyes arranged vertically on his face, and all 6 were currently looking down at the humans with barely hidden smugness. "Captain Miller," Brix said, his translator making his words sound unnaturally flat. "The Galactic Council welcomes you. We are pleased to present Earth with its first official vessel." Tom noticed the pause but kept his face neutral. Behind the delegation, a large sheet covered something. Whatever was underneath seemed oddly shaped, not the sleek lines of a modern vessel. "On behalf of humanity, we're honored to accept," Tom replied formally. Brix made a gesture, and the sheet was pulled away. The humans' excited murmurs died instantly. Before them sat what could only be described as junk. The ship was an old transport vessel, its hull patched in dozens of places with mismatched metal. One of its 4 engine pods was visibly cracked. The name painted on its side, Discarded Hope, was faded and peeling. "This is," Tom started, then caught himself. "This is our ship." "Indeed," said Brix, all 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "The Discarded Hope has served the Galactic Coalition for over 70 years. It was due to be decommissioned, but we thought it would make a perfect learning opportunity for your species." Jack's face had fallen. Maria's hand was on her sidearm, though Tom doubted she even realized it. A reflexive response to insult. "It's barely space-worthy," said Mike, the chief engineer, speaking what everyone was thinking. His practiced eye was already cataloging the countless fixes the ship would need. "The life support systems look ancient." "They are functional," Brix replied. "Mostly." Another alien from the delegation, a squat 4-armed being named Gorks, chuckled. "Perhaps humans aren't ready for interstellar travel after all. If this simple vessel is too challenging, we accept with gratitude." Tom interrupted, his voice firm. The crew looked at him with surprise, but he gave them a subtle hand signal. "Trust me." Brix seemed disappointed by the lack of protest. "Very well. The ship is yours. The Council has provided basic supplies and a manual for the more unusual systems. You have 1 Earth month to make it operational and begin your assigned patrols." "1 month," Mike whispered. "We'd need 3 just to." "1 month will be perfect," Tom said loudly. "We look forward to showing what humans can do with this fine vessel." The delegation departed, several of them failing to hide their amusement. As soon as the doors closed, the crew erupted. "Captain, this is an insult," Maria said. "They've given us garbage." "We should go to the human ambassador," suggested Ren, the communications specialist. "File a formal complaint." Tom walked up to the ship and placed his hand on the cold, pitted hull. "No," he said quietly. "That's exactly what they expect." "Sir?" Jack asked. Tom turned to face his crew. In his eyes burned a fierce determination that made even Maria step back. "They think we'll complain. They think we'll beg for something better or give up entirely. That's what they want. Proof that humans don't belong out here." He began walking around the ship, examining it more closely. "Look at this hull. Cerulean metal. Older, yes, but nearly impossible to scan through with standard sensors. And these engine mounts, he pointed to what looked like damage. They're modified Vulcan thrusters, primitive by their standards, but incredibly reliable. Mike stepped forward, his engineer's curiosity overtaking his disappointment. The power core looks intact, actually. Old design, but if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the marathon cores. Not fast to charge, but nearly unlimited endurance. Tom smiled. Exactly. They didn't give us a fancy ship. They gave us a foundation. But sir, Maria protested, even if we get it running, we'll be laughed at everywhere we go. Good, Tom replied. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate us. Throughout human history, our greatest achievements have come when others thought we would fail. He gathered his crew in a circle, their faces still showing doubt, but now mixed with curiosity. They gave us scrap because they don't respect us. But they've forgotten something important about humans. We've always been at our best when working with scrap. We built our first planes from bicycle parts, our first satellites from leftover war technology. Tom's voice grew stronger, and one by one, his crew stood straighter. We won't just make this ship functional. We'll make it ours. We'll make it human. And one day, the Galactic Council will look at what we've done with their cast-offs and wonder what they've unleashed. Jack was the first to grin. So where do we start, Captain? Tom turned to the ship, his eyes gleaming with purpose. Mike, get a team and start assessing that power core. Maria, I want you to think about defensive options, creative ones. Ren, download everything you can about this model, official and unofficial. Jack, help me plot out the internal spaces. I want to see what we're working with. As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Tom stood a moment longer, looking at the battered vessel. The name Discarded Hope seemed to mock them. We should rename her, he murmured to himself. Something fitting. He thought of the old naval traditions from Earth's history, of ships beating the odds, of underdogs rising to greatness. Phoenix, he decided. From Earth mythology, the bird that rises from ashes. He placed his hand again on the hull, feeling the cold metal, imagining what it could become. They gave us scrap, he whispered. We'll show them what humans can build from ashes. Behind him, his crew was already at work, the sound of tools and voices filling the hangar with purpose. The first step of their journey had begun, and despite everything, Tom felt a surge of excitement. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. 3 days after receiving the Discarded Hope, the hangar bay looked like a war zone. Ship parts were scattered everywhere, panels removed from walls, and the constant sound of welding and hammering filled the air. In the middle of it all stood Mike, covered in grease up to his elbows, staring at the ship's power core with a mixture of frustration and amazement. Captain, you need to see this, he called out as Tom walked by with a tablet full of reports. Tom ducked under a hanging cable and joined his chief engineer. What am I looking at, Mike? Mike pointed to the cylindrical power core that took up a large part of the engine room. This isn't junk. This is a Helion-5 core. They stopped making these 30 years ago, but not because they were bad. Then why? Because they're too good. Mike wiped his hands on a rag. These cores are nearly indestructible. They can run for decades without maintenance, but they have one problem. They're inefficient by modern standards. Tom raised an eyebrow. How inefficient? They use about 30% more fuel than newer models. So the big companies stopped making them to sell their fancy new cores that need replacing every 5 years. Mike grinned. But if someone were to fix the efficiency problem, could you do it? Tom asked. Mike tapped the core with his knuckle. Already started. I'm reconfiguring the power distribution system. With some human ingenuity, I think we can make this old core run better than anything in the Council's fleet. Tom clapped him on the shoulder. That's what I like to hear. On the other side of the ship, Maria had turned the cargo bay into a makeshift workshop. She was examining what looked like a large cargo door. "What's all this?" Tom asked, stepping around various tools and parts. Maria looked up from her work. Their idea of a shield generator was pathetic. "So I'm making the new one. Out of cargo doors." "These aren't ordinary doors, Captain. They're made of tri-steel with reflective coating. The aliens used them for radiation protection during long hauls, but with some modifications." She flipped a switch, and the door panel began to hum with energy. "They can deflect energy weapons too." Tom watched as she fired a small test laser at the panel. The beam bounced off harmlessly. "It won't stop a direct hit from a military vessel," Maria admitted, "but it'll give us some protection. And the best part? Our shield signature will read as cargo bay doors on most scans." Tom smiled. "Hiding in plain sight. I like it." In what would become the bridge, Jack and Ren were installing old-style manual control systems alongside the ship's original computer interfaces. "Why are you adding physical controls?" Tom asked. "Aren't neural interfaces faster?" Jack looked up from under the console. "Faster, yes, but also easier to hack or disrupt. These physical controls are from Earth's old space program. Simple, reliable, and completely unfamiliar to most alien tech experts." Ren added, "We're also installing a backup navigation system based on star tracking, like ancient sailors used. If all our fancy tech fails, we can still find our way home." Day by day, the ship transformed. What had started as an insult was becoming something unique. Neither human nor alien, but a hybrid that combined the best of both worlds. On the 10th day, Ambassador Briggs returned with several council observers. They walked through the ship with poorly concealed disdain. "You've made changes," Briggs noted, watching a crew member install what looked like an Earth kitchen appliance into a control panel. "Improvements," Tom corrected. "We're adapting the ship to our needs." One of the observers, a tall insectoid being, chittered something that the translator rendered as, "Are those physical buttons? How primitive." Mike, who was passing by with a toolbox, smiled politely. "Sometimes primitive is reliable, and reliability matters when you're floating in space." Brick stopped at what had once been a storage closet. Now it contained plants, actual Earth plants growing in containers. "What is this?" he asked, all 6 eyes blinking rapidly. "Supplemental life support," answered Dr. Lee, the ship's medical officer. "These plants clean our air and provide fresh food. They also help with crew morale." "Plants on a starship," another observer laughed. "Inefficient and unnecessary." Dr. Lee just smiled. "We find them quite necessary." As the tour continued, Grix became increasingly agitated. "Captain Miller, these modifications may violate council regulations. That power core configuration has not been approved. Those shield emplacements are not standard. This, whatever this is," he pointed to a device cobbled together from spare parts. "Water recycler," Tom explained. 98% efficiency. "The point is," Brix continued, "the council expected you to learn how to operate a standard vessel, not rebuild it according to human whims." Tom stopped walking and faced the ambassador directly. "With all respect, Ambassador, you gave us a decommissioned vessel that barely functioned. We're making it work. Isn't that the point?" "The point was to see if humans could adapt to galactic standards," Brix replied coldly. "And we are adapting them to work better." Tom gestured around. "Everything we've done improves this ship's functionality while maintaining compatibility with council systems." The delegation left shortly after, clearly unhappy with what they'd seen. As the hangar doors closed behind them, the crew gathered around Tom. "They're going to try to stop us, aren't they?" Maria asked. Tom nodded. "They'll probably add more inspections and requirements. But we'll keep working." "We've only got 20 more days until our deadline," Mike reminded him. "Then we work faster," Tom replied. "Double shifts. I want this ship ready to fly in 15 days, not 30. As the crew dispersed to their tasks with renewed purpose, Tom walked to the front of the ship. The old name had been removed, and a crew member was carefully painting the new one. Futuristic. They think we're just making a mess, Tom said to no one in particular. They don't understand that this is what humans do best. We take pieces that don't fit together and make something new. He touched the freshly painted name, careful not to smudge it. We're not just rebuilding a ship, he whispered. We're making history. Behind him, the sounds of construction continued late into the night. The Phoenix was taking shape, piece by mismatched piece, becoming something the Galactic Council never intended. A ship with a human heart. The Phoenix cut through space on its first official patrol, 3 days ahead of the Council's deadline. From the outside, it still looked like a patched-together transport vessel, its hull a mismatched collection of metals and components. But inside, it hummed with efficiency and purpose. Captain Tom sat in the command chair on the bridge, watching his crew work with pride. They had done the impossible. Turned scrap into a functioning starship with capabilities no one would suspect. "Status report," he called out. "All systems running smoothly, Captain," reported Mike from the engineering station. "Power core operating at 110% of standard capacity. Shield doors ready on standby," Maria added from tactical. "Weapons systems, well, what we're calling weapons systems, are online." Tom smiled at that. They had no official weapons, the Council hadn't authorized any. But Maria had repurposed mining equipment, waste disposal units, and even the ship's old cargo magnetizers into something that could, in a pinch, serve as defense. "We're approaching Sector 7, Jack announced from navigation. "Standard patrol route as assigned." Sector 7 was quiet space, a trading route far from any important Council worlds. It was busy enough with merchant traffic, but considered safe and routine. Perfect for a test run of humanity's first official ship. "Captain," Wren called from communications, "I'm picking up a distress signal. Merchant vessel, about half a light year from our position." Tom straightened in his chair. "Details." "They're reporting an attack. Pirates, by the sound of it." Wren adjusted her equipment. "Council protocol says we should report it and wait for an authorized military vessel." The bridge fell silent as all eyes turned to Tom. They knew what Council protocol said. They also knew what humanity would do. How long would it take an authorized military vessel to reach them? Tom asked. Jack checked his instruments. "Nearest patrol is 3 hours away at maximum speed." "And how long would it take us?" 20 minutes, sir." Tom nodded, his decision made. "Set course for that merchant vessel, maximum speed. Maria, prepare your non-weapons. Wren, inform the Council of our response." "Sir," Maria said carefully, "if we engage pirates, we'll be violating at least 3 Council regulations." "Then we better not get caught," Tom replied with a grim smile. "Or better yet, we better succeed." The Phoenix changed course, its engines pushing harder than any standard Council vessel of its class should be able to. Mike had worked wonders with the old power core, channeling its energy through human-designed systems that squeezed every drop of power from it. "Coming up on the coordinates," Jack announced 15 minutes later. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1. The view screen showed chaos. A bulky merchant ship was listing badly, its engines dark. Circling it were 3 sleek, predatory vessels. Pirate ships known for hitting easy targets and disappearing before Council forces could respond. "They've already disabled the merchant's engines," Maria reported. "Life support still functioning, but they're cutting into the cargo hold." "Wren, open a channel," Tom ordered. When she nodded, he spoke clearly. "Attention, pirate vessels. This is Captain Tom Miller of the Earth ship Phoenix. Cease your attack and withdraw immediately." A harsh laugh came over the comms. "Earth ship, the new pets of the Council." The pirate's voice was translated through a basic system, the words choppy. "Go away, little humans. This is not your business." "I'm making it our business," Tom replied calmly. "Last warning." The pirate didn't bother to respond. Instead, one of the ships broke off from the merchant vessel and turned toward the Phoenix, weapons charging. "They're targeting us," Maria announced, tension in her voice. "Energy weapons powering up." "Shield doors," Tom ordered. Maria activated her makeshift defense system. The cargo bay doors, now charged with energy-deflecting fields, deployed strategically around the ship's vulnerable areas. From the outside, it looked like the Phoenix was simply opening some compartments. Nothing threatening. The pirate ship fired, confident in an easy kill. The energy beam struck one of the shield doors and scattered. Most of its force dissipated harmlessly into space. "Minimal damage," Mike reported, surprise in his voice. "Maria, your shield doors actually worked." "Don't sound so shocked," she replied, grinning. The pirate fired again, a more powerful shot. This time, the shield door absorbed most of the impact, but began to overheat. "We can't take too many of those," Maria warned. Tom nodded. "Then let's not give them the chance." "Mike, vent atmosphere from port side chambers. Controlled bursts." "Sir?" Mike questioned, then understanding dawned. "Oh, yes, sir." Mike activated the emergency venting system that humans had installed. Carefully calculated bursts of air shot from the Phoenix's side, the force pushing the ship into a spin that no proper council vessel would ever perform. The pirate's next shot missed entirely, its targeting computers unable to predict the unorthodox movement. "Now, Maria," Tom ordered as they spun toward the pirate ship. "Show them our mining equipment." Maria activated what had once been a standard mining laser, used for breaking down asteroids. The humans had modified it, focusing its beam to a much narrower point. It wasn't designed as a weapon, officially, but when the beam struck the pirate ship's engine housing, it cut through the metal like it was paper. The pirate ship lurched, its engines failing. The other two pirates, seeing their companion disabled, broke off their attack on the merchant vessel and moved to engage the Phoenix. "They're coordinating," Maria warned, "coming at us from both sides." "Perfect," Tom said, surprising his crew. "Jack, full stop. Mike, prepare for full emergency vent, all chambers." "Sir, that'll drain our atmosphere reserves," Mike cautioned. "We'll refill them." "On my mark. Now." The Phoenix suddenly vented atmosphere from all sides at once, creating a pressurized bubble that rippled outward. The pirate ships, closing in fast, flew right into it. Their sleek designs, built for speed and predatory attacks, were thrown off course by the unexpected space disturbance. "Maria, cargo magnetizers, full power." Maria activated the modified cargo systems. Originally designed to help load heavy metal containers, the humans had turned them into powerful magnetic projectors. The beams locked onto the metal hulls of the pirate ships, pulling them toward each other. Before they could compensate, the two vessels collided with a silent crash that sent debris floating across the view screen. All three pirate ships disabled, Maria reported, her voice filled with disbelief at their own success. Tom stood up from his chair. "Ren, contact the merchant vessel. See if they need medical assistance. Then inform the council that we've responded to a distress call and require cleanup of 3 disabled pirate ships." As the crew carried out his orders, a sense of stunned silence filled the bridge, soon replaced by growing excitement. "We did it," Jack said quietly. "We actually did it." Tom nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Yes, we did. And with a ship made of scrap." 3 hours later, when the council military vessels finally arrived, they found the Phoenix helping repair the merchant ship's engines. The pirates were contained, their ships disabled but intact for evidence. The council commander, a stern reptilian being, was clearly confused by what he found. "You engaged 3 pirate vessels. With that?" he asked Tom, pointing at the Phoenix with one clawed hand. "We responded to a distress call," Tom answered simply, "as any council vessel should." The commander studied the mismatched ship and its human crew with new eyes. "The council will want a full report on how this happened. Of course, Tom said. Though I should warn you, some of our methods might be considered unconventional. As the military vessels took charge of the pirates and the Phoenix prepared to continue its patrol, Tom gathered his crew on the bridge. Today, we showed the galaxy something important, he told them quietly. Not that humans can fight. Any species can fight. We showed them that we can think differently, see solutions where others see only junk. He looked around at their proud faces. They gave us scrap. We made it fly. They'll remember that. What none of them knew was how quickly word would spread through the merchant lanes and trading posts, stories of the odd human ship that fought like no other vessel in the galaxy. The story of the Phoenix had just begun. 2 months after the pirate incident, the Phoenix had developed quite a reputation. What started as whispers among merchant crews had grown into stories told in spaceports across 3 sectors. Some tales were exaggerated. No, the ship couldn't turn invisible, and it definitely couldn't split into 2 separate vessels. But the core truth remained. The human scrap ship was surprisingly effective. The Council, of course, was less impressed. Captain Tom had been called to explain his reckless actions 3 separate times. Each time, he patiently pointed out that he had simply responded to a distress call, as any responsible Council vessel should. They can't decide if they should punish us or study us, Tom told his crew one evening as they gathered in what they now called the garden, the expanded plant room that had become their unofficial meeting space. Mike laughed. They sent 2 engineers last week to inspect our power core modifications. They spent 3 hours taking notes. And that military attaché who wanted to see our weapons systems, Maria added. His face when I showed him our modified mining equipment was priceless. The crew's laughter was interrupted by Ren's voice over the ship's comm. Captain to the bridge. Priority message coming in from Council Command. Tom exchanged glances with his officers. Duty calls. When they reached the bridge, Ren was at her station, her expression serious. It's a general broadcast to all vessels, sir, but it's coded urgent. On screen, Tom ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing a stern-faced Council admiral, a thorn species, with ridged skin and sharp features. Attention all Council vessels. This is Admiral Cord with an emergency directive. The Drachnor Collective has launched a surprise attack on the Centauri trade route. All available ships are ordered to report to Sector 12 to form a defense line. The crew exchanged shocked glances. The Drachnor were a secretive species from the Outer Rim, known for their advanced technology and isolationist policies. They weren't officially enemies of the Council, but relations had always been tense. The Drachnor fleet consists of approximately 30 vessels of unknown configuration, the Admiral continued. They have already disabled 3 Council outposts and have established a blockade preventing supply ships from reaching the outer colonies. This is a Level 1 emergency. All available ships report to these coordinates. Admiral Corvout. The message ended, replaced by a set of coordinates flashing on the screen. The Centauri trade route, Jack said quietly. That's the main supply line to 17 colonies. Tom nodded, his expression grim. Ren, acknowledge the order and inform Council Command we're en route. Jack, set course for those coordinates, maximum speed. Sir, Maria spoke up. We're not a warship. We'll be facing actual military vessels. We're a Council ship responding to a Council emergency, Tom replied firmly. Just like with the pirates, but on a larger scale. The pirates were one thing, Mike said. But the Drachnor, they're supposed to be decades ahead of everyone technologically. Tom stood up, looking at each crew member in turn. Then they won't be expecting what we bring to the fight. We've spent 2 months improving this ship, adding systems no one else has thought of combining. We might not be the strongest ship in the fleet, but we're definitely the most surprising. His confidence was infectious, and the crew turned to their stations with renewed purpose. Jack, how long to reach Sector 12? Tom asked. 18 hours at maximum safe speed, sir. Make it 15, Tom said. Mike, I know you've been holding back some power in reserve. Time to see what this core can really do. Mike grinned. Yes, sir. I'll give you 15 hours, but I'll need to run some special cooling protocols. Do whatever you need to. Maria, I want you to run combat simulations with every modification we've made. Find new ways to use what we have. Already thinking of a few ideas, Captain, she replied. The Phoenix pushed through space faster than it had ever gone before, the old ship's frame creaking under the strain. But the human reinforcements held, and the modified power core performed flawlessly under Mike's careful management. 15 hours later, they dropped out of FTL at the designated coordinates. The scene that greeted them was organized chaos. Nearly 100 council ships of various sizes had formed a defensive line, facing a distant cluster of dark, angular vessels, the Drachmer fleet. We're being hailed, Wren announced. It's the command ship. Admiral Korb's face appeared on screen. His ridged features showed surprise when he saw the human captain. Earth Vessel Phoenix, he said. I was not expecting your type of ship in this response fleet. We received the same call as everyone else. Admiral, Tom replied respectfully. The Phoenix is reporting for duty. The Admiral seemed to struggle with this for a moment, then nodded curtly. Very well. Take position in the Tertiary Response Group. Section D. Those are support vessels and medical ships. You'll be safely behind the main battle line. Tom frowned. With respect, Admiral, we've proven effective in combat situations. Against pirates, Captain Miller. This is a military engagement against a technologically superior enemy. Your creative modifications will not be relevant here. Take your assigned position. Corv out. As the transmission ended, Tom turned to his crew. They looked disappointed but not surprised. Well, Maria said, at least we'll have a good view of the battle. Tom sat in his chair, thinking. Then he turned to Wren. Open a channel to all council ships. Sir. Wren looked confused. I don't have authority to broadcast fleet-wide. Then find a way, Tom insisted. This is important. Wren worked at her console for a few moments. I can piggyback on the fleet's tactical update frequency. It's not quite fleet-wide, but most combat vessels will receive it. Do it. When she nodded, Tom spoke clearly and confidently. This is Captain Tom Miller of the Earth ship Phoenix. We've analyzed the Drachmer vessels, and we've detected a potential weakness in their configuration. Request permission to approach and gather more detailed scans. There was a moment of silence. Then Admiral Korb's angry voice came through. Captain Miller, get off this channel immediately. You have no authority to. Admiral. Tom interrupted. With respect, humans have a unique perspective that might help here. The Drachmer ships are arranged in a standard defense pattern, but their energy signatures suggest they're using a synchronized shield system. If that's true, there might be a way to disrupt it. A new voice joined the channel. This is Captain Lorne of the Steadfast. What kind of disruption are you suggesting, human? Before Korv could object again, Tom continued quickly. The synchronized shields will have a resonance frequency. If we can identify it and broadcast a counter frequency, we might be able to create temporary gaps in their defenses. There was a thoughtful silence. Then Captain Lorne spoke again. Admiral, the human's theory is sound. The Drachner are known for their synchronized systems. Admiral Korv growled in frustration. Fine. Captain Miller, you have 10 minutes to approach and scan. But at the first sign of danger, you will retreat immediately. Is that clear? Perfectly clear, Admiral. Phoenix out. Tom turned to his crew with a determined smile. Jack, take us forward. Slow approach. Wren, prepare all sensors for detailed scans. Maria, be ready with those shield doors. As the Phoenix moved ahead of the Council defense line, Tom leaned forward in his chair. They put us in the back because they think we're just scrap, he said quietly. Time to show them what scrap can do. The mismatched ship moved steadily toward the intimidating Drachmer fleet, looking like a civilian transport that had taken a wrong turn into a military standoff. But inside, the crew of the Phoenix was ready to face their greatest challenge yet, and perhaps change the course of an interstellar war. The Phoenix drifted closer to the Drachmer fleet, looking harmless and insignificant against the backdrop of the imposing enemy warships. These alien vessels were unlike anything the humans had seen before. Sleek, angular, and completely black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each ship was nearly identical, moving in perfect coordination like parts of a single organism. "Keep us on a lazy approach vector," Tom instructed Jack. "Like we're just a curious transport that doesn't know any better." "They're scanning us, Captain," Wren reported from her station. "Standard identification sweep." "Let them look," Tom replied calmly. "All they'll see is a patched-together ship that isn't worth their attention." The Phoenix continued its casual approach. Behind them, the Council fleet waited in tense formation, many captains questioning the wisdom of letting the human vessel take point. "Captain," Wren said suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy patterns between the Drachmer ships. They're pulsing in sequence, like they're talking to each other." Tom leaned forward. "Can you isolate the frequency?" Wren's fingers flew over her console. "Working on it. It's complex, not like any communication system I've seen before." "Sir," Maria interrupted from Tactical, "I think they've noticed us. 2 smaller vessels are breaking formation." Tom nodded. "Mike, ready on power core adjustments. Maria, shield doors on standby. But don't deploy yet. We don't want to look threatening." The 2 Drachmer ships moved with graceful precision, approaching the Phoenix from both sides. "They're charging weapons," Maria warned, tension in her voice. "Hold steady," Tom ordered. "Wren, what do you have?" "I've isolated the pattern," she replied excitedly. "It's not just communication, it's their shield synchronization. Each ship is generating only part of a larger shield bubble. Together, they create an overlapping defense that's much stronger than individual shields." "Exactly what we suspected," Tom said. "Can we disrupt it?" "Maybe," Wren said, her hands still working. "If we broadcast a counter-frequency." She was cut off as the 2 Drachmer ships fired, their weapons sending bright purple energy beams toward the Phoenix. "Shield doors, now," Tom ordered. Maria activated their makeshift defense system, but even with the modified doors in place, the impact rocked the ship violently. "Damage to sections 3 and 5, Mike reported. "Door shields held, but they're already overheating. We can't take many more hits like that." Tom made a quick decision. "Time to show our hand. Jack, evasive maneuvers, the garbage chute special." Jack grinned and input a series of commands. The Phoenix suddenly began tumbling in a seemingly uncontrolled spin, venting atmosphere in carefully timed bursts that sent it careening between the 2 Drachmer vessels. The enemy ships tried to track them, but the erratic movement pattern, one that would make any proper military pilot sick, confused their targeting systems. "Wren, broadcast that counter-frequency now, full power," Tom called out over the noise of straining metal. "Broadcasting on all channels." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like ripples spreading across water, visible disruptions appeared across the energy fields connecting the Drachmer ships. "It's working," Wren exclaimed. "Their shield synchronization is faltering." Tom hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands, brace for impact." Then to Jack, "Take us straight through their line, between those 2 cruisers." The Phoenix stopped its wild tumbling and shot forward, aiming for a gap in the Drachmer formation, where the shield disruption was strongest. "Sir, if their shields come back online while we're passing through," Maria warned. "They won't," Tom said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. "Mike, divert all power to engines and Wren's broadcast. Maria, be ready with everything we've got once we're through." The Phoenix accelerated, its mismatched hull creaking under the strain. The gap between the Drachmer ships loomed ahead, a space that would normally be protected by their synchronized shields. Counter frequency still holding, Wren reported. Shield disruption at 67%. Draknor vessels trying to adjust, Maria added. They're firing again. Energy beams lanced out from multiple ships, but the Phoenix was moving too quickly now, and the disrupted coordination between Draknor vessels made their shots uncharacteristically inaccurate. 5 seconds to gap, Jack called out. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Phoenix shot through the opening in the Draknor line, emerging on the other side of their formation. For a split second, there was silence on the bridge as everyone realized they'd made it through. "We did it," Jack shouted. "Not yet," Tom said, his eyes fixed on the view screen. "Wren, open a channel to the Council fleet. Maria, deploy all mining lasers and prepare the cargo magnetizers." "Channel open," Wren confirmed. "Admiral Corv, this is the Phoenix," Tom announced. "We've successfully disrupted the Draknor shield synchronization. Their rear is exposed. Attack now." Without waiting for a response, Tom turned to Maria. "Target their command ship. Full power to all our non-weapons." The Draknor were scrambling to reform their perfectly coordinated defense, but the disruption had thrown their systems into disarray. The Phoenix fired its modified mining lasers at the largest enemy vessel, the concentrated beams cutting through the now unprotected hull. At the same time, the Council fleet responded to Tom's call, dozens of warships charging forward to exploit the weakness the humans had created. "It's working," Maria said in wonder. "The Council ships are breaking through." The battle transformed in minutes. Without their synchronized shields, the Draknor lost their greatest advantage. Their perfect formation dissolved into chaos as they tried to defend against attacks from both the Phoenix at their rear and the Council fleet at their front. "Draknor vessels are powering up their engines," Wren reported. "They're preparing to retreat." "Not all of them," Maria warned. 3 ships on intercept course with us." Tom nodded calmly. "They figured out we're the source of the disruption. Mike, how much more can you give the broadcast?" "We're already redlining, Captain," Mike replied, his hands dancing across his controls. "Core temperature rising dangerously." "Push it further," Tom ordered. "Wren, modulate the frequency. Make it harder for them to adapt." "Jack, evasive pattern delta." The Phoenix spun away from the approaching Draknor ships, still broadcasting the shield-disrupting signal at maximum power. The 3 enemy vessels pursued, firing repeatedly. "Hull breach in Section 8. Mike called out. "Sealing now. Shield doors failing on starboard side," Maria added. The situation was growing desperate when Admiral Corv's voice came through the comm. "Earth vessel Phoenix, break off your attack. Council reinforcements incoming." True to his word, 5 Council warships appeared, placing themselves between the Phoenix and the pursuing Draknor vessels. "This is your chance to withdraw, Captain Miller," Corv said, his tone still stern but with a new note of respect. "You've done enough." Tom looked at his crew, exhausted, some bleeding from minor injuries, but all still at their posts. "Thank you, Admiral." Phoenix withdrawing. He turned to Jack. "Get us to a safe distance." As they pulled away, the view screen showed the Draknor fleet in full retreat, with Council ships in pursuit. What had seemed like an unwinnable battle just hours ago had turned in their favor. In the aftermath, as emergency repairs were underway, Admiral Corv himself came aboard the Phoenix. He walked through the ship with obvious curiosity, studying the jury-rigged systems and makeshift modifications. "I must admit, Captain Miller," he said finally, "when I first saw this vessel, I thought it was an insult to include it in a military operation." Tom smiled slightly. "Many have underestimated us, Admiral." "A mistake I won't make again," Corv replied. "The Council will receive my full report on how your unconventional tactics turned the tide of this battle." After the Admiral left, Tom gathered his crew in the garden. The plants had been damaged in the fight, but like everything else on the Phoenix, they were already being repaired and would grow back stronger. "Today we proved something important. Tom told his weary but proud crew. Not just to the Council or the Drachner, but to ourselves. He touched a damaged panel, feeling the worn metal beneath his fingers. They gave us scrap, he said softly, and told us it was all we deserved. But we didn't just make it work. We made it extraordinary. We made it human. Maria raised an improvised cup of Mike's engine room brew. To the Phoenix, she said, the most dangerous scrap heap in the galaxy. To the Phoenix, they all echoed, their voices filling the garden. As their celebration continued, news was already spreading throughout Council space. Tales of the odd human ship that looked like junk, but fought like nothing ever seen before. A ship that had faced the mighty Drachner and emerged victorious. They had been given scrap. They had built a legend. And the galaxy would never be the same. The UES Perseverance hung in orbit above Earth, its once gleaming hull now marked with scars from 2 decades of service. The ship had never been the pride of the United Earth Space Fleet. It was simply a workhorse, reliable but unexceptional. And now, like an old horse put out to pasture, it was slated for decommissioning. Captain James Reed stood at the viewport of his quarters, looking out at the blue marble of Earth. At 53, he felt a kinship with his vessel. They were both considered past their prime by the young admirals who now commanded the fleet. His weathered face reflected in the glass, the gray at his temples matching the worn metal of his ship. "Captain, to the bridge," came the voice over the intercom, interrupting his thoughts. When Reed arrived at the bridge, his first officer, Tom Miller, was waiting. Miller was 35, tall and serious, one of the few crew members who had requested to stay with the Perseverance despite better opportunities elsewhere. "Incoming transmission from Fleet Command, sir," Miller said, standing at attention. "On screen," Reed ordered, settling into the captain's chair that had molded to his form over the years. Admiral Watson's stern face appeared on the main display. She was one of the new generation of leaders, brilliant and efficient, with little patience for sentiment. "Captain Reed," she began without preamble, "there's been a change of plans. Before the Perseverance is decommissioned, you have one final mission." Reed raised an eyebrow, but remained silent. "You're to transport a group of scientific personnel to Outpost Delta for rotation. It's a milk run, Captain, straight there and back, after which you'll proceed with the decommissioning as scheduled." "Understood, Admiral," Reed replied, hiding his disappointment at such a mundane final assignment. "There's one more thing," Watson continued, her expression shifting slightly. "Due to budget constraints, we're reassigning most of your crew immediately. You'll be operating with a skeleton crew for this mission." Reed frowned. "How skeleton are we talking, Admiral?" "You'll be receiving 20 new crew members, transfers from various posts. That should give you the minimum required to operate safely." After the transmission ended, Miller looked at Reed with concern. "Skeleton crew for a milk run. Seems excessive even for the budget hawks." Reed tapped his fingers on the armrest. "And who are these transfers?" "Usually, no one volunteers for a ship headed to the scrapyard." 3 days later, Reed understood exactly what kind of crew he had been assigned. They were the misfits of the fleet, brilliant but problematic officers who had clashed with authority, bucked regulations, or simply didn't fit the increasingly corporate structure of the United Earth Space Fleet. Lisa Walker, his new chief engineer, had been demoted twice for modifying equipment without authorization, despite the fact that her modifications had worked brilliantly. Mike Torres, now his tactical officer, had been passed over for promotion 3 times because of his unorthodox strategic ideas that contradicted fleet doctrine. The ship's doctor, Anna Ray, had a reputation for prioritizing patience over paperwork, earning her transfers from one post to another. Reed called them all to the ship's conference room, studying their faces as they assembled. Some looked defeated, others defiant, but all showed signs of having been ground down by a system that valued conformity over creativity. "I've reviewed all your files," Reed said once they were all seated, "and I know why you're here. Each of you is considered a problem by someone up the chain of command." The room remained silent, But Reed caught several exchanged glances. "I don't care about any of that," he continued. "This is the Perseverance's final mission, and my last command. All I care about is completing our assignment competently. If you can do your jobs, your past doesn't matter to me." Walker, a compact woman with quick eyes, spoke up. "Permission to speak freely, Captain." Reed nodded. "This ship is outdated, running on systems 2 generations behind the current fleet standard. I've been reviewing the maintenance logs. It'll take some creativity just to keep her functioning properly for this mission." "Then be creative, Chief," Reed replied with a slight smile. "That's why you're here, isn't it? Because you don't do things by the book." For the first time, something like hope flickered across Walker's face. Over the next 2 days, the small crew worked to prepare the Perseverance for departure. Reed was impressed despite himself. These officers might have been rejects in the eyes of the fleet, but they knew their jobs. Walker had already improved engine efficiency by 8% with modifications that definitely weren't in any official manual. Torres had recalibrated the outdated weapon systems to perform nearly as well as newer models. The ship was scheduled to depart in 12 hours when the message came through. "Captain, emergency transmission from Outpost Gamma," called out Communications Officer Ben Park, his voice tense. "They're under attack." Reed rushed to the bridge where the rest of the command crew was already gathering. "Put it on screen." The transmission was fragmented, breaking up with static, but the message was clear enough. Outpost Gamma, one of the frontier colonies, was under attack by forces identifying as the Dominion, an aggressive coalition of 3 alien species that had been expanding their territory at the expense of any worlds in their path. "Request immediate assistance," said the colonial governor, fear evident in his voice. "They've landed ground forces and have orbital superiority. Civilian casualties air." The transmission cut off. Reed turned to his communications officer. "Contact Fleet Command immediately." After a brief conversation with Admiral Watson, Reed's expression darkened. "What's the word, sir?" Miller asked. "The main response fleet is 3 days out at best speed," Reed replied. "Command has ordered us to remain in orbit and await the arrival of battle-ready vessels." 3 days, Torres exclaimed. "Gamma will be overrun by then. There are 10,000 civilians on that outpost." Reed looked around at his crew of misfits and his aging, obsolete ship. Fleet regulations were clear. The Perseverance wasn't classified for frontline combat operations anymore. Engaging with enemy forces would be a direct violation of orders. He thought of all the times he had followed orders throughout his career, of the growing rigidity of the fleet, and of the lives hanging in the balance. "Mr. Miller, set course for Outpost Gamma, maximum speed," Reed said, settling into his captain's chair with new purpose. Miller hesitated for just a moment. "Sir, that contradicts Fleet Command's direct order." Reed met his first officer's gaze steadily. "I'm aware of that, Mr. Miller. Are you refusing the order?" A slow smile spread across Miller's face. "No, sir. Setting course for Outpost Gamma." As the Perseverance broke orbit and accelerated toward the jump point, Reed knew this would be his last command one way or another. But perhaps, just perhaps, this obsolete ship and its crew of rejects might make a difference before they were done. No one feared the UES Perseverance. It had never been the fastest, the strongest, or the most advanced vessel in the fleet. But as it leaped into faster-than-light travel on a collision course with the Dominion forces, that was about to change. The UES Perseverance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Gamma system. The bridge crew tensed as the main view screen displayed the scene before them. "Tactical assessment, Mr. Torres," Captain Reed ordered, his voice steady despite the sight of 3 large Dominion warships orbiting the small colony world. Torres' fingers flew across his console. 3 heavy cruisers in orbit, sir. They're deploying landing craft to the surface. Colony defenses are minimal. They've already lost their orbital platform. Life signs on the surface?" Reed asked. Dr. Ray checked her readings. Multiple human life signs, concentrated in the main settlement, and moving toward the emergency shelters. Dominion forces are spreading out from 3 landing zones. Reed nodded grimly. They don't know we're here yet. Let's keep it that way. He turned to his first officer. Mr. Miller, I want us to approach from behind the planet's moon. We'll use it for cover. Sir, Torres interjected, even with the element of surprise, we can't take on 3 Dominion cruisers. The Perseverance isn't built for that kind of fight. I'm aware of our limitations, Mr. Torres, Reed replied. We're not here to win a battle. We're here to save lives. He looked around at his crew. Our priority is evacuating as many colonists as possible. As the Perseverance maneuvered behind Gamma's moon, Reed called his senior officers to the tactical room. The holographic display showed the colony and the Dominion positions. The colony has 3 emergency shelters here, and here, Reed pointed. Each has a landing pad large enough for our shuttles. We'll send all 4 of our shuttles down in rotation while the Perseverance creates a distraction. What kind of distraction can we create that won't get us destroyed? Miller asked. Lisa Walker, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Captain, I've been studying the Dominion ships. Their systems are highly advanced, more integrated than ours. But that might be a weakness. She tapped controls on the display, highlighting the enemy ship's communication arrays. They rely heavily on constant data exchange between ships. If we could disrupt that, even briefly, it might create enough confusion for our shuttles to get in and out. Reed looked at her with interest. How do you propose we do that, Chief? Walker smiled for the first time since coming aboard. Our outdated communication system operates on frequencies the Dominion doesn't use anymore. They won't be scanning for them. We can use our main communication array to blast interference across their coordination channels. Will that work? Miller asked doubtfully. In theory, Walker replied. But we'll need to get close. Reed considered this. Close enough to be a target. Yes, sir. Reed made his decision. We'll approach from behind the moon, broadcasting the interference. Once their ships show signs of confusion, we'll launch the shuttles. Mr. Torres, I want you to prepare some surprises to keep their attention on us and away from our shuttles. Torres grinned. I have a few ideas, Captain. 4 hours later, the plan was in motion. The Perseverance emerged from behind the moon, broadcasting focused interference that scrambled the Dominion ship's coordination. As predicted, the enemy vessels responded with momentary confusion, their movements becoming uncoordinated. Shuttles away, Miller reported as the 4 evacuation craft launched toward the planet's surface. Now, Mr. Torres, Reed ordered, keep their attention on us. Torres initiated his surprises, a series of modified probes that mimicked weapon signatures, creating phantom targets for the Dominion ships to track. On the surface, the shuttle teams worked frantically to evacuate colonists from the emergency shelters. Dominion ground forces had already reached the outskirts of the settlement, and the sound of weapons fire could be heard in the distance. Lieutenant Kelly Adams, leading the ground team, directed colonists into the shuttles. Move quickly. Women and children first, then the elderly. A young colony security officer approached her. The Dominion forces are getting closer. They'll be here in minutes. Adams nodded. Hold them off as long as you can. We'll need 3 more shuttle runs to get everyone. Back in orbit, the Perseverance was dancing a dangerous ballet with the Dominion cruisers. Reed had ordered the ship to make seemingly random maneuvers while continuing to broadcast interference. They're adapting to our jamming, Walker reported from engineering. I'm changing frequencies, but it won't fool them for long. Shuttle 1 returning with evacuees, Miller announced. Shuttles 2 and 3 are still loading. Shuttle 4 is en route back to the surface for a second run. Reed gripped the arms of his chair as a near miss from a Dominion energy weapon rocked the ship. Damage report. Minor damage to the outer hull, Walker replied. Shields holding at 78%. Sir, Torres called out urgently. One of the Dominion ships is breaking off to investigate the shuttle activity. Reed thought quickly. Mr. Torres, target their propulsion systems. Fire when ready. The Perseverance's outdated weapons shouldn't have posed much threat to the advanced Dominion vessel, but Torres had spent the previous day recalibrating and modifying them specifically to target known weaknesses in Dominion shielding. The shots hit with surprising effectiveness, causing the enemy ship to veer off course. Direct hit, Torres exclaimed with surprise in his voice. Their port thrusters are damaged. For the next 2 hours, the Perseverance continued its dangerous game, drawing fire while the shuttles worked to evacuate as many colonists as possible. The ship took multiple hits, and damage reports flowed in from all sections. Final shuttle approaching, Miller reported, his uniform stained with smoke from a console fire that had been extinguished minutes earlier. They crammed in as many as they could, but they had to leave some behind. Reed's face hardened at this news. How many? About 200 colonists couldn't be evacuated, Miller replied grimly. Mostly colony defense forces who stayed behind to cover the retreat. As the final shuttle docked, the Dominion ships coordinated their attack, their systems having finally adapted to the Perseverance's interference. All 3 cruisers are moving to cut off our escape route, Torres warned. Maximum power to engines, Reed ordered. Set course for the jump point. As the Perseverance accelerated away from the planet, the crew worked to tend to the nearly 800 evacuees now crowded into every available space on the ship. In his ready room, Reed received a troubling report from Dr. Ray. Among the evacuees was a colonial intelligence officer who had managed to recover data about Dominion fleet movements. Captain, the intelligence officer said, her face grave, the attack on Gamma was just the beginning. The Dominion is assembling an armada, over 50 ships. They're planning a full-scale invasion of human space. Reed stared at the data. Have you transmitted this to Fleet Command? The woman shook her head. All long-range communications are being jammed. Your ship is the only warning Earth has. Reed looked out his viewport at the streaking stars as the Perseverance fled at maximum speed. Behind them, the 3 Dominion cruisers were in pursuit. Ahead lay an uncertain path to Earth with vital information that could save billions of lives. The UEA's Perseverance, old, damaged, and overcrowded, had just become humanity's most important ship. We've lost them, Torres announced with relief as the Perseverance emerged from its 3rd random jump in 6 hours. The tactical officer's shoulders plumped with exhaustion, but a small smile played on his lips. Captain Reed nodded. Good work. Now we need to decide our next move. He looked around at his senior officers gathered in the conference room. The strain of the past 24 hours showed on every face. We have to get back to Earth with this intelligence, Miller said, gesturing to the data they'd received from the colonial officer. The fleet needs to know about the Dominion Armada. If we head straight for Earth, the Dominion ships will likely intercept us, Reed replied. We're not fast enough to outrun them on a direct course. Lisa Walker, who had been studying the star charts, looked up. Captain, I have another idea. What if we don't run from the Armada? What if we follow it instead? The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the engineer. Explain, Reed said after a moment. Walker pointed to the star map. Based on the intelligence report, the Dominion Armada is gathering here, at these coordinates. If we can get close enough to observe them without being detected, we might learn more about their plans, possibly find a weakness. We might even be able to get a message to Earth through back channels. That's insanely risky, Miller objected. One old ship against an entire armada. Not against them, Walker corrected. Near them. The Perseverance has one advantage. It's considered obsolete. The Dominion's advanced scanning systems are calibrated to detect current-generation human ships. Our older power signature and communication systems might register as background noise or minor anomalies. Reed considered this, so we could potentially shadow the Armada undetected. It's possible, Walker said. Not certain, but possible. Torres leaned forward, his tactical mind engaged. If we could get close enough, we might be able to gather detailed information about their fleet composition, weaknesses, maybe even their attack plans. Reed looked at each officer in turn, weighing the enormous risk against the potential reward. Finally, he nodded. Set course for the Dominion gathering point. Maximum stealth protocols. 3 days later, the Perseverance lurked at the edge of a dense asteroid field, its systems powered down to minimal levels. Through the main view screen, the crew stared in silent horror at the Dominion Armada. 67 ships, Torres whispered, reading from his tactical display. 23 heavy cruisers, 32 destroyers, 5 carriers with fighter squadrons, and 7 support vessels. If that force reaches Earth, the fleet won't stand a chance, Miller said grimly. Reed turned to Walker. Status of our detection measures. So far, we're registering as a minor electromagnetic anomaly, she replied. I've modified our hull plating to absorb most of their scanning frequencies. As long as we stay among these asteroids and keep power levels low, we should remain undetected. For the next 2 days, the crew of the Perseverance meticulously cataloged everything they could about the Dominion fleet. Torres noted weapons capabilities and defensive systems. Walker analyzed their power signatures and communication frequencies. Dr. Ray even studied what little they could determine about Dominion biology from long-range scans. In engineering, Walker made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, you need to see this, she called over the comm system, her voice tight with excitement. When Reed arrived in engineering, Walker was hunched over a workstation, surrounded by complex energy pattern analyses. I've been studying the Dominion ship's power distribution, she explained. Their systems are incredibly advanced, integrated neural networks that process data at speeds our computers can't match. But they're also incredibly sensitive to certain types of electromagnetic interference. Like the interference we used at Gamma, Reed asked. Similar, but more targeted, Walker replied. Their ships communicate using quantum entanglement channels, almost impossible to jam using conventional methods. But their systems have to translate those quantum signals into commands for mechanical systems. She pointed to a specific energy pattern on her screen. That translation happens at this frequency range. And guess what? The Perseverance's old fusion drive, when operating at 87% capacity, produces harmonic resonance waves that interfere with exactly that range. Reed's eyes widened as he understood the implications. You're saying our outdated drive system could disrupt their ship functions. Not just disrupt, Walker said with a growing smile. In theory, it could temporarily paralyze them. They'd lose coordination between their neural networks and physical systems for maybe 30 seconds before their automatic compensation kicks in. 30 seconds could be enough time to get a shot in, Reed mused. Or escape if needed, Walker added. Reed was about to respond when the ship's alarm blared. He rushed back to the bridge. Dominion scout ship, Torres reported as Reed entered. It's conducting a sweep of the asteroid field. Current trajectory will bring it within direct visual range in 3 minutes. Options, Reed demanded. We can try to move deeper into the asteroid field, Miller suggested, but the engine power required might give away our position. Or we can hold position and hope their sensors don't pick us up, Torres added. Reed made his decision. Neither. Mr. Torres, power up weapons. Target their engines only. Sir, Miller questioned, surprised. If they detect us, the entire Armada will know we're here, Reed explained. We need to take them out quickly and completely. Walker's discovery gives us a chance. He opened a channel to engineering. Chief, I need you to bring the drive to exactly 87% power when I give the word. Focus the harmonic output through the forward deflector. Ready when you are, Captain, Walker replied. The bridge crew watched tensely as the Dominion scout ship grew larger on the view screen, methodically scanning the asteroid field. It's changing course, Torres reported suddenly. Coming directly toward us. I think they've detected something. Reed leaned forward in his chair. Steady. Wait for my mark. The scout ship approached, its sleek, predatory form now clearly visible. They're powering up weapons, Torres warned. Now, Chief, Reed ordered. The Perseverance's engines hummed to life at precisely 87% power. Walker channeled the harmonic resonance through the forward deflector, directing it like a beam at the approaching scout. The effect was immediate and startling. The Dominion ship suddenly drifted, its lights flickering. Its weapons powered down mid-charge. "Fire," Reed commanded. Torres launched a precisely targeted shot that struck the scout's engine section. The hit was perfect, disabling the ship without destroying it. "Their systems are offline," Torres reported with amazement. No distress signal was sent. A cheer erupted on the bridge, quickly silenced by Reed's raised hand. "This confirms Walker's theory," he said. "We have a weapon the Dominion isn't prepared for." He looked around at his crew, determination in his eyes. "And we're going to use it." As the disabled scout drifted powerless through space, the crew of the Perseverance began to realize something extraordinary. Their obsolete ship, the vessel no one had feared, might be the only one capable of stopping the Dominion Armada. The senior officers of the Perseverance gathered around the tactical display in the conference room. The holographic image showed the Dominion Armada, a massive collection of warships now moving in formation toward human space. "They've begun their advance," Reed said, his voice grave. "At their current speed, they'll reach the outer colonies in 36 hours. Earth Fleet Headquarters won't be able to gather enough ships in time." "We need to slow them down," Miller stated, saying what everyone was thinking. Reed nodded. "Exactly. We can't stop them alone, but if we can delay their progress, give the fleet time to organize a proper defense." He let the thought hang in the air. Torres leaned forward, studying the display. The Armada is staying in tight formation. Their front ships are scanning for threats, but their rear guard is lighter than I'd expect. Walker, who had spent the last 12 hours refining her harmonic resonance theory, spoke up. "Captain, I've been working on expanding our disruptive capabilities. I think I can modify our main deflector to broadcast the harmonic resonance in a wider pattern. It won't be as effective as a focused beam, but it could affect multiple ships at once." "How many?" Reed asked. 3, maybe 4 if they're close together," Walker replied. "But it will put enormous strain on our power systems. We'd only get 1 or 2 bursts before we'd need to reset." Reed considered this information. "We need to make those bursts count." He pointed to an area ahead of the Armada's path. "What about this nebula? Could it help us?" Torres examined the region. The Kelnar Nebula. Dense ionized gases, magnetic disturbances. It would interfere with sensors on both sides. But his eyes lit up with understanding. The Dominion's integrated systems would suffer more than our older tech. It's the same principle as Walker's resonance discovery. They'll have to pass through or around it. Reed noted, "If we could lure some of their ships into the nebula, we'd have the advantage," Torres finished. "Their advanced targeting systems would be nearly useless, while our manual targeting could still function." A plan began to take shape. The Perseverance would reveal itself just enough to draw a portion of the Dominion fleet into the nebula, where Walker's harmonic disruption could be deployed to maximum effect. With luck, they could disable enough ships to create a blockage, forcing the Armada to alter course or slow down to clear the path. "It's risky," Miller cautioned. "If too many ships follow us in, or if the harmonic disruption doesn't work as expected, we'll be destroyed," Reed acknowledged. "But if we do nothing, billions of lives are at stake." The vote was unanimous. They would take the chance. 6 hours later, the Perseverance positioned itself at the edge of the Kelnar Nebula. Power systems at minimal levels except for a deliberately leaky communication signal, just enough to catch the attention of the Dominion's forward scouts. "They've detected us," Torres reported from Tactical. 2 destroyer-class vessels are breaking formation to investigate." Reed nodded calmly. "Let them get a good look, then take us into the nebula. Slow enough that they think they can catch us." The Perseverance glided into the multicolored gases of the nebula, the pursuing Dominion ships following exactly as hoped. As soon as they entered the dense clouds, their sensors began to struggle. "They're still following, but they've slowed," Torres reported. "They're having trouble tracking us." "Good. How many ships are following now?" Reed asked. Torres checked his readings. 4 destroyers and a heavy cruiser has joined the hunt. Reed couldn't suppress a small smile. "Better than we expected. Take us deeper to the coordinates we selected." The Perseverance navigated through the nebula using old-fashioned stellar navigation techniques that had been programmed into the ship's computers decades ago. The Dominion ships, reliant on their advanced sensors, moved more cautiously through the colorful fog. When they reached the designated position, a particularly dense pocket of the nebula, Reed gave the order. "Battle stations. Prepare the harmonic burst." Walker's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Harmonic resonator charged and ready, Captain. We'll get 2 bursts at most before the system overheats." "Understood. On my mark," Reed replied. "Mr. Torres, target the lead destroyer with conventional weapons. Fire as soon as their systems are disrupted." The bridge crew tensed as the shapes of the Dominion ships became visible through the nebula, their sleek forms distorted by the colorful gases. "Now," Reed ordered. The Perseverance unleashed the harmonic burst, broadcasting the precise frequency that interfered with the Dominion ship's neural networks. The effect was immediate. All 5 enemy vessels slowed to a drift, their systems temporarily paralyzed. "Fire," Reed commanded. Torres launched a precisely targeted barrage at the lead destroyer's propulsion system. The shots connected perfectly, causing a cascade of secondary explosions along the ship's engine section. "Direct hit," Torres reported. "Their engines are offline." But the victory was short-lived. As predicted, the Dominion ship's systems began to recover after 30 seconds. "Second burst ready," Walker reported. "Hold," Reed ordered. "Let's see what they do first." The remaining Dominion ships, now aware of their vulnerability, began to spread out, making it impossible to catch all of them in a single burst. But something unexpected happened. The disabled lead destroyer, now drifting without control, collided with one of its companions. Both ships' emergency systems activated, filling the nebula with distress signals. Reed saw the opportunity. "Mr. Miller, take us behind that cruiser. Chief Walker, prepare for focused burst on my mark." The Perseverance maneuvered through the nebula with surprising agility for an older vessel. When they emerged behind the Dominion cruiser, Reed didn't hesitate. Now, the second harmonic burst hit the cruiser directly. As its systems froze, Torres fired every weapon they had at its engine section. The cruiser's reactor containment failed, causing a massive explosion that damaged 2 nearby destroyers. "Get us out of here, maximum speed," Reed ordered as debris scattered throughout the nebula. As the Perseverance escaped from the nebula, the crew watched in amazement at what they had accomplished. 3 Dominion ships disabled or destroyed, 2 more damaged, and the nebula now filled with wreckage and radiation that would force the Armada to detour around it. "We've bought the fleet maybe 10 hours, Torres estimated. "Not enough," Reed said grimly. "We need to do more." He studied the tactical display showing the main Armada, his mind working on an even bolder plan. "Sir," Miller said hesitantly, "what are you thinking?" Reed looked up, determination etched on his face. "Their command ship. If we could disable or destroy it, the entire Armada would be thrown into confusion." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. "That's not just risky, Captain," Miller finally said. "It's suicide." Reed's expression didn't change. "I'm not asking anyone to volunteer. I'll take a shuttle myself if necessary." "How would you even get aboard their command ship?" Torres asked. Reed's eyes returned to the display. "They have a weakness we haven't exploited yet. Their overconfidence. They think we're just one obsolete ship. They don't know what we're capable of." As the Perseverance raced away from the nebula, Reed outlined his audacious plan. A plan so dangerous and unlikely that it just might work. A plan that would take them directly into the heart of the Dominion Armada. "This is insane," Miller said, checking his environment suit one last time. Beside him, Reed, Torres, and Walker did the same. The four officers were crammed into the Perseverance's smallest shuttle, modified by Walker to mask its energy signature. Insane, yes, Reed agreed with a grim smile. But they won't expect it. No one would. The plan was audacious beyond reason. The shuttle would approach the Dominion command ship using debris from their earlier battle as cover. Once close enough, they would attach to the command ship's hull near a maintenance hatch that Torres had identified from their scans. Using Walker's harmonic device, now miniaturized into a portable unit, they would create a localized disruption, opening the hatch without triggering alarms. From there, they would make their way to the ship's central coordination hub and plant specially designed devices that would broadcast the harmonic disruption throughout the entire command vessel. If successful, it would paralyze the ship's systems long enough for the Perseverance to target its main communication array. Remember, Reed said to the team, "Our goal isn't to destroy their command ship. It's to disable their ability to coordinate the Armada." The shuttle launched, its engines barely more than a whisper as Walker's modifications kept its signature minimal. Behind them, the Perseverance retreated to a safe distance, ready to spring into action once the team completed their mission. For 40 tense minutes, the shuttle drifted among the debris field, slowly approaching the massive Dominion command ship. It was unlike anything the humans had seen before, nearly a kilometer long, with a design that seemed to blend organic and mechanical elements. "We're in position," Miller whispered, though there was no reason to keep his voice down in the vacuum of space. Walker activated her device as they attached to the hull. The small section of the ship's exterior went dark, systems temporarily offline. Torres quickly attached a breaching tool to the maintenance hatch, and within moments, they were inside. The interior of the Dominion ship was eerily beautiful, corridors lined with what looked like living circuitry, pulsing with energy and information. The team moved quickly, using Walker's scanner to avoid patrols. "The coordination hub should be 2 levels up," Torres said, consulting the small display on his wrist. They encountered only 2 Dominion crew members, tall insectoid beings that moved with unsettling grace. Each time, Walker's device gave them just enough disruption to slip past unnoticed. When they reached the coordination hub, however, they found it heavily guarded. 6 Dominion soldiers stood watch outside the sealed doorway. "We need a distraction," Reed whispered. Torres reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, remote harmonic emitter. "I can place it down that corridor. When activated, it should draw them away." The distraction worked perfectly. As the guards rushed to investigate the strange energy readings, the team slipped into the coordination hub, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing the position of every ship in the Armada. 30 seconds, Walker warned as she began placing her devices around the room. "That's all the time we'll have once I activate the main disruptor." Reed nodded. Torres set the charges on the main communication relays. Miller watched the door. They worked with practiced efficiency, each knowing their role. When Walker gave the signal, they retreated to a service corridor just outside the hub. 3, 2, 1, Walker counted down, then pressed the activator. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire command ship seemed to shudder as systems throughout the vessel temporarily froze. Lights flickered, doors sealed or opened at random, and distant alarms began to wail. "Move," Reed ordered, and the team raced back toward their entry point, encountering confusion rather than resistance as the Dominion crew struggled to understand what was happening to their ship. They reached the maintenance hatch just as the ship's systems began to recover. Slipping back into their shuttle, they detached from the hull and drifted away, using the continuing chaos as cover. "Perseverance, this is Reed," the captain transmitted. "Phase 1 complete. Execute Phase 2. The Perseverance emerged from hiding, all weapons charged and targeting systems locked on the command ship's now identified communication array. With the command ship still recovering from the internal disruption, it was unable to coordinate an effective defense. The old ship fired everything it had at the precise weak point Torres had identified. The shots connected in a series of brilliant explosions that rippled across the command ship's hull. "Direct hit," came the excited voice of the officer left in command of the Perseverance. "Their main communication array is completely destroyed." As the shuttle raced back to the Perseverance, the crew watched in amazement as the effect of their attack spread throughout the Dominion Armada. Without the command ship's coordination, the tightly organized formation began to break down. Ships moved in conflicting patterns, some colliding, others firing on incorrect targets. "It's working better than we expected," Torres said in awe. "Their ships are so integrated that without central coordination, they can't function effectively as individual units." The Perseverance retrieved the shuttle and immediately set course away from the Armada, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. Behind them, the Dominion fleet had fallen into complete disarray. "Message from Earth Fleet Command," the communications officer reported as they reached safe distance. "They've picked up our emergency broadcasts. A response fleet is on the way. ETA 4 hours. When the Earth fleet arrived, they found an astonishing sight. The once mighty Dominion Armada scattered and in disorder. Several ships had been damaged in collisions, others had retreated, and the remainder were struggling to reestablish communication protocols. The Earth fleet, though smaller, engaged the disorganized enemy with devastating effect. Within hours, the Dominion forces had either been destroyed or had fled back to their own territory. 2 days later, the UES Perseverance docked at Earth's orbital station. As Reed and his crew stepped off the ship, they were met not with the retirement ceremony that had been planned, but with cheering crowds and a full honor guard. Admiral Watson, who had ordered them to stand down days earlier, was the first to greet them. "Captain Reed," she said, her usual stern expression replaced with one of respect. "Earth Fleet owes you and your crew a debt that can never be repaid." Reed shook his head. "The credit belongs to this ship and this crew, Admiral. They showed what can be accomplished when people are allowed to think creatively, even if it doesn't follow standard protocols." In the following weeks, the story of the Perseverance spread throughout human space. The ship that had been scheduled for decommissioning was instead given a complete refit, its unique capabilities now recognized as invaluable. The crew, once considered misfits and problematic officers, were celebrated as heroes and given their choice of assignments. Most chose to remain with the Perseverance, now under Reed's permanent command. 6 months later, as the Perseverance prepared for its first official mission as the flagship of a new rapid response fleet, Reed received a classified intelligence report. Dominion communications had been intercepted and translated. Among them was a new tactical directive: approach with extreme caution any human vessel matching the profile of UES Perseverance. Priority threat: avoid engagement if possible. Reed smiled as he read the report. The ship no one had feared had become the one ship the enemy feared above all others. And as he looked around at his crew, Walker, Torres, Miller, and all the others who had been rejected by a system that valued conformity over creativity, he knew this was just the beginning of their legend.